I don't think he generally thinks of himself as Jewish, but he had to think of himself as Jewish when he was criticizing Israel. Was Leopold Bloom a Jew? The answer turns out by 3 definitions he is, and by 2 definitions he is. And is this trivial? I don't think so. I think Joyce made Bloom's background genetically and culturally so complicated to make anti-Semitism seem even more ridiculous. Because Bloom is only Jewish by some definitions. Yet the anti-Semites that Bloom encounters during the long day of Ulysses, they all treat him as if they know what a Jew is and that Bloom fits their definition. Hardly any of them know he doesn't practice the Jewish religion, for instance. As a matter of fact, Bloom is officially a Catholic, although he doesn't practice that religion either, but he converted in order to marry Molly.
So you're saying that the words that we use are often reductive to the point of actually warping the situation?
Yeah, well, I think almost all forms of group prejudice, group bias, group hatred, group violence are all, I think they're all either caused by or vastly exacerbated by the use of labels with pejorative connotations.
So how can we protect ourselves against this besides making quotes in the air and using time-based statements?
Well, using the Krzyzewski system of indexing. Like if you want to generalize about plumbers, the first thing you got to call to mind, according to Krzyzewski, plumber sub 1 is not plumber sub 2, is not plumber sub 3, is not plumber sub 4. They're all different. They not only have different fingerprints, they have different degrees of competence in the science of plumbing. They have different degrees of honesty. You find lots of cases somebody's been cheated by a plumber and knows it. He's going around for the next 20 years telling everybody, you can't trust those goddamn plumbers, they're all a bunch of thieves. Which is the same logic as one of my first general semantics teachers, a psychologist named Ray Bontrager. He's pointed out that the classic of that line of thought is all Indians always walk Indian file. I know because the one I saw was walking that way.
So the basic idea is that, you know, in a sense, there are no classes.
Yes. That was a big debate in medieval theology between the nominalists and the realists. And my viewpoint definitely is descended from the nominalists. Classes exist in the human mind. We create classes in order to understand the universe. But everything in the universe is a unique and distinct individual space-time occurrence. I am not myself from one day to the next. An electron is not itself from 1 nanosecond to the next.
So how can we effectually speak about anything?
Well, I write books about all sorts of things. But the point is you've got to follow certain rules if you want to attain maximum clarity. If you follow these rules, you may not attain maximum clarity, but you'll attain greater clarity than usual, and Robert Schaefer will denounce you as a terrorist launching an unprovoked attack on thought and language.
So what are some more of the rules? How can we make our language more accurate?
Well, an application of Krzyzewski that a lot of psychiatrists use, especially clinical psychologists, especially in rational emotional therapy, but it's infiltrated several other schools of therapy. Let's say you hate somebody who did some terrible wrong to you. Let's say, to take a very topical subject, you were the victim of incest. So you hate your father. The rational emotive therapy approach to that and the Krzyzewskian approach would be first date and index it, because at this point, by the time you're an adult, you probably hate all fathers. So the first thing is you don't know all fathers. How many fathers have you known? How many fathers do you know have committed incest? That's limited to the one who hurt you. Okay, you hate him. When do you hate him? Do you hate him when he did it, or do you still hate him now? And do you know if he's still committing incest, or has he been cured or something? The thing is to specify, isolate, and clarify what you hate. And then the thing is, well, what good does it do hating anyway? What are you going to do about it? You're going to make a decision rather than just going around hating all the time. You either bring him to trial, or you forgive him, possibly, I don't know. That's very unfashionable. That's an old-fashioned Buddhist idea, which is not in keeping with political correctness. I guess you should bring the bastard to trial. But whatever the case may be, The thing is to isolate it. Like, this is a wild guess, but I think Adolf Hitler, when he was trying to make a living as a painter, he lost a couple of good commissions to a Jewish painter. And Hitler decided the Jews are getting ahead because they're underhanded and tricky, because I know I'm a better painter than he was. Now, if he had dated in an index that he would say, this one guy sold a painting to a client I was helping to sell a painting to. Instead, he generalized about all the Jews in the whole goddamn world. How many of them had he ever actually met? Well, you know, everybody knows Hitler was crazy, but from the point of view of general semantics, he was talking about millions and millions of people he never met, never looked at, never shook hands with, never looked in the eye, and he thought he knew all about all these people. The only case I can think of equal insanity is some of the feminists who talk that way about all men when they've only known at most maybe 120 men out of 2.5 billion on the earth right now.
It's certainly a higher number than the number of Jews.
Yeah, so you might say the androphobes are even crazier than the anti-Semites because they're generalizing about an even bigger group they know even less about.
Isn't this one of the facets of intelligence, though, and science even, is to be able to generalize about things so that we can fit our model to more than individual objects or situations?
Yeah, of course, but the thing is we got to learn how to generalize scientifically rather than recklessly or unscientifically or superstitiously. It's like Mark Twain, in an argument with an anti-Semite, said, anti-Semitism reminds me of a stupid cat I once owned that sat on a hot stove and never sat on a hot stove again. And the anti-Semite said, what's stupid about that? And Twain said, the cat never sat on a coal stove either. So you got to learn how to make generalizations, which involves dating and indexing. And another important part of general semantics comes out of operationalism in physics and is closely related to John Dewey's instrumentalism, which is you should specify how you made the observation, which is part of the observation according to quantum mechanics. Like the electron appears as a wave when observed with this set of apparatus. The electron appears as a particle when observed with this set of apparatus. You don't say the electron is a wave or the electron is a particle. You just say it appears as when observed with this kind of apparatus. And then you come to the things that people are in perpetual ideological furor about, like, is the fetus human or not? Well, according to operationalism, you can't even ask that question. According to the operationalist attitude of modern physics, the only question you can ask is, what benefits of clarity accrue from considering the fetus human? What benefits of clarity accrue from considering the fetus not yet a human?
So the idea is that there's no such thing as it being one or the other. It's just...
Here we come to the basic issue, the question of being. One of Korzybski's most radical suggestions consisted of dropping the word is from the English language entirely. English without is, which is called E prime.
He named it E prime?
No, that was a name invented by David Borland, one of Korzybski's students. I have written 2 books in E prime, maybe 3, I'm not sure, 2.5. And one is an anthology. My contributions are all in E prime, but the other contributors wrote as they pleased. But I've written 2 books entirely in E prime, and I've written a lot of other things in E prime, including a couple of movie reviews. I'm surprised how well E prime serves writing movies.